All right, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. And as part of the Rankin Technical College AWD, or Application and Website Development 1100 C# Programming course online for summer 2023, I've been doing some preliminary lectures from the book we're going to be using, that being Murachs C# 8th edition. And so far, I have, great. Try that again. So far, I've gone through the first 5 chapters of the book. All right. And now we're up to Chapter 6, How to Code Methods and Event Handlers. And actually, before this lecture, I went in and I did record another lecture on where I wrote a program on this, but I'm having some problems with it. So let's just go with it here. All right. So we'll learn how to code and call methods, how to work with tuples, how to work with events and delegates, and then finally another version of the future value app. Okay, so what we've been doing thus far is we've just basically been writing everything as one big routine. Okay, and it is okay to do that, but when you start to have hundreds of lines, thousands of lines, etc., it gets unwieldy. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to start breaking up whatever we're doing into routines. Now, what I did in the last chapter, what I did earlier today is I made a console app, okay? And that console app was pretty simple, or at least I thought it was, but I'm going to see if I can right now replicate that. And I'm going to come in here, there it is, but I'm going to see if I can come back in here and make it as a GUI app. So let's add a new project. Let's come in here and say Windows Form. Let's find our Windows Form.NET Framework C#. We'll just call it, I don't know what we've got in here right now. Let me I lost what I was working on here, so I'll have to boot it, log in again. All right. So I will come back again and do a Windows Form just like we were doing. But before we do that, we've got Test Project and Test Project 2. So I will make it a Windows Form, but I will call it Test Project 3. Okay, and there it is. Now, I'm going to do this kind of quickly, not to confuse anybody, but just because I don't want to waste time right now playing and making a pretty interface and the like. All right, we will fix up everything in here, promise. All right, we will fix up everything, but let's just come in and make this real quick here. What I mean is this: we're going to come in and we're going to put in. Let's start by adding a few buttons here. We'll have a calculate button, just like we've been doing. We'll have a clear button, and we will have a exit button. All right, we'll have those. And then we're going to let the user enter 2 pieces of information. So we'll have them do that in labels. All right, so this will be number 1. Again, as we've been doing, let's make this a little bit darker here. And let's take our auto size and set it to false so we can make this bigger. All right, so that'll say something like number 1. We'll have number 1 and we'll have number 2 here. Okay. All right. And when we click calculate, we'll have another thing here. and that'll be our answers. All right, and we're going to actually put that over here, and this is going to be a little bit bigger. You'll see why in a moment. All right. Okay, and then we'll have two different text boxes in here. All right, that is our interface. Now, as I've done several times, I'm going to lasso or highlight everything here. I'm going to come over to here, and I'm going to change the font size for everything and let's make it 22, bold, and Arial. Okay, that doesn't look bad at all right now for what I'm going to attempt to do. Okay, so this will be LBL number 1. And it will say number 1. This will be LBL number 2. And it will say number 2. This will be the result. And it will say result. All right, very quickly, let's just grab all of this and right justify it. There that is. So that's everything. Okay. This will become then TXT number 1. This will be TXT number 2. And this will be, we'll call it LBL all results. All right, then finally, this will be BTN calculate. And it will say calculate. This will be BTN clear, and it will say clear. And this will be BTN exit, and it will say exit. All right, now the only thing I want to do here is I'm going to take this and make it a little wider. You'll see why in just a minute. Okay, now where this says label 4, I don't want it to say anything. Okay, also what might print out a little nicer here is I'm going to highlight these, and I'm going to highlight this. And in the past, we've always played with our back color. I'm going to play with the 4 color, and I'm going to make it white. Okay, maybe that reads a little bit better. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. Okay, so I'm going to lock my interface into place, and now let's quickly write our starting code. And what I mean is the code for the code for the calculate, the code for the clear, and the code for the exit. All right, let's do the clear first, and that'll clear, 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 and put the focus there. So that'll be txt number 1 dot text equals nothing. Txt number 2 dot text equal nothing. LBL all results dot text equals nothing, and txt number 1 dot focus. All right, I'm also going to come in here and grab from what I have. Let's see, that exit button snippet of code that we've looked at before. That'll go in here. All right, let's just see if that stuff works. And we'll run this. Oops, I gotta set my project. Oops, I don't want that. I'm sorry. There we go. All right, so we'll run this now. I'm not worried right now about it being centered or anything else. But if I put something in here and I put something in here and I click clear, they're both clearing, and there's my cursor. And do I want to quit? No. Do I want to quit? Yes. All that works. All right. So all that is done. We can come in here and quickly set our accept button to calculate, set our cancel button to clear, set our start position to center screen, and set our tab order. And that will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. Okay, all that's done. So let's do the calculate in here. Okay. So what I want to say here is if txt number one dot text dot trim, if there's nothing in there, all right, I'm going to bring in a message box, and it'll just say no input for first text box. And then we will say text box empty. And we will say, just put an OK button in there. Okay, and the icon, we won't make it an error. We'll just make it an exclamation. We'll do that. I don't use that one hardly ever, if ever. This has to be a message box dot show. Okay. Okay. First, let's just see if that's working. So file, save all, we'll run this. It should now be centered on the screen here. It is. If I've got nothing in there, calculate. Text box empty, no input for first text box. Good. I also want to put the cursor back there, and I didn't do that. So let's do that. So we will say txt number one dot focus. All right. So that'll handle that. Else, what we want to do here is we want to parse this. Okay, we want to do a try parse statement. So let's see, how did we do that one before? I did that in one of these projects, so let's see if we can find that. Don't think it was this one. I don't think there's a try parse in here. Nope. So let's close that and close that and close that. Okay, I didn't do it there either, so I don't remember where I did it, but we'll find it. Okay, I'm going to just copy this. Okay, and we're going to come in here and say this. Bool result. We'll set that equal to true, doesn't matter. And double number, just call it num. We'll set that equal to 0.0. Okay. Now, otherwise, so I'm going to remove some of this stuff. In fact, I'm going to get rid of that. And if this is the case, I'm dead in the water, so I'm just going to return. So let me put this in here. Don't worry about it. We'll fix all of this right now. So this will be double.tryparse. And this is txt number1.text. And the out will go into num. All right, so I'm going to say here, result is going to be equal to this. Just like that. Okay, so I'm going to attempt to see whether or not this is numeric. So let's put some comments in here. We should start adding some comments. Check for empty input. This will be a check for non-numeric input. All right, so I've got this, and now I'm going to say if not result, meaning that we put something non-numeric in there. Okay, I'm going to just bring all of this in, but I'm going to change the message. All right, so I'm going to put non-numeric input for the first text box. All right, and text box non-numeric. All right, I'm going to set the focus, but I want to first clear out any junk that's in there. So number 2 dot text is going to be equal to nothing. It's number 1, sorry. So I should now have it so I can, if I run this and I put nothing in there, I get one message, no input. If I put in something non-numeric, I get non-numeric. And that's good. And there's my cursor. So that's all working. All right, now I want to replicate all of this. Check for empty input, etc., all of it. So I'm going to grab all of it. And now I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to do the same thing not for number 1, like we just did in here. So check for empty input, text box 1. And this will be check for non-numeric input, text box 1. This will be, we didn't copy the comment. I will right now. So this will be check for empty input, text box 2. This will also then be text box 2. All right, and that'll be 2. Now, did I do it wrong? Let's see. Text box 1, text box 1, empty in text box 2. How did I get that in there twice? I don't know. But I did. So empty 2, check for non-numeric input, text box 2. Okay, if I get all the way down to here, well, I've got I don't know what I did. But if I get all the way down to here, I'm going to say, I've got numbers in both of these. Okay, so I'm going to come in here and say, and create some variables. Double sum equals 0.0. Double diff equals 0.0. Double product equals 0.0. And double quote equals 0.0. Okay? All right. So that's all set. So now I can come down here and I can say sum equal, let's see. Well, we've got num here. Let's have two of these. And let's make them num1 and num2. Okay? All right. So let's see. That'll be num1 here. And that'll be num2 here. Okay, that's good. All right. So I can now say num1 equal double dot try parse. Just double dot parse, I think, would work here. Txt number1 dot text. Now, what did the heck happen here? So that should be num1. All right. Num2 equals double dot parse txt number2 dot text. Sum equals num1 plus num2. Diff equals num1 minus num2. Prod equals num1 times num2. And quote equals num1 divided by num2. Okay, so I've got all that stuff. Now I just have to put it in my answer. So let's make an output string here. Initialize it to nothing. What's wrong here? Must be a variable property or indexer. Output str that we did up here. Output str. Oh, that should be a plus sign. Okay, it's going to be kind of hard to read. All right. Minus, multiply, divide. So let's see. That's going to be sum, so that'll be diff. That'll be prod for the product, and that'll be quote for the quotient. And let's see if I've got it working. All right, so 45, 6. I don't think I told it to print out, so let's do that. Let's take this. Let's make sure all of this stuff here is centered. Start with that. Text align will be center. And this can be centered as well. Okay, so let me try it one more time. I didn't print it, still didn't print it out, so. TXT all results. Now this might be really big, the quotient, so it might have a lot of decimal places in here. So let's take all of these and make them all N2s. So that'll be a number, and it'll have 2 decimal places regardless. Okay, all right. Now let's see if we've got output. 567 and 12. Well, it's pretty ugly, so we'll have to work on that. So let's work on that now. So let's add to each one of these, except the last one, a blank line. Okay. Also, just because we can, let's make this a little bit longer. It might be close, so. There we go. Okay, so let's do a save all and run it again. All right, somehow I made it right justified, but you can see it looks like it's working at least. All right, clear works and exit works. So let me change this. Make sure that that is centered. One of there. Try it one more time. There you go. All right, so our calculator is working. It's not beautiful, but it's functional and it works. All right, you can clear. Okay, we get our errors, etc. Okay, so that's all working. Now, one thing about this that you may or may not have noticed is, again, we took and wrote everything we did was written in the same one routine. So everything was written in one routine. All right. Now, there's no great way of doing this that I know of. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to View Code, and I'm going to go grab everything that we had in here, everything. And I'm going to comment the entire thing out. What do I mean? Well, I'm going to come back. I'll keep my variables here. Okay. I'll keep my variables. But where I'm checking here, if this, etc., I'm going to comment all that out. All right, and we're going to rewrite this in just a moment. First, let's go back and look in here. All right. We want to learn how to write methods. Methods can be public, they can be private, they can be protected, and I think there's a couple of other ones that you'll probably never use. If something is public, it's known to everybody. It's available to everybody, even outside of the program that you're working in. If something is private, that it's only known within the program you're working in. If something is protected, we'll talk about that in Chapter 12. So we want to take and break our program up so that it's into a bunch of smaller programs, for lack of better words. And that's what they're showing here. So as it says here, if you want to allow other classes to access your method, make it public. We're not worrying about that till Chapter 12. To make sure only the current class can access the method, use private. Okay? All right. To code a method that doesn't return any data, use void. Otherwise, it'll need a return. Okay? All right. Within the parentheses of a method, you can code an optional parameter list. Okay? The name of the method plus its parameter list is known as its signature. All right? All right. To call methods, you just give the name of the method plus, and you don't need the word this, but you can put it in there, parentheses, and then any arguments that might be required for that method. So as it says, when you call a method, you code an argument list with the arguments passed to the method. Those are what are in the parentheses. When you pass arguments by position, the order must be correct. Otherwise, you can have weird results. All right, the arguments that you pass must be compatible with the way that they're used in the routine. All right, and you can use IntelliSense to make this work a little bit better. Okay, before we get to optional parameters, which we will in just a second, let's look at how we can start breaking this up. Okay, so for instance, looking in here, remember down at the bottom here we did this. Okay, I'm going to take that and I'm going to rewrite that as 4 different routines right now. So I'm going to come down to the bottom here and I'm going to write down here private calculate sum. In fact, we have to say what it is. It's going to return a double. It's going to be called calculate sum. All right. And let's pass into that double n1 and double n2. And we'll just return n1 plus n2. Okay? Now, to make our life a little bit easier, I'm just going to copy this. Whoops, I don't want to do it like that. Or like that. Oh my goodness. I want to copy that in here 4 times. So we'll have a calculate sum, a calculate diff, where we'll do the subtraction, a calculate prod, where we'll do the product, and a calculate quote, where we'll do the quotient. All right, so far you haven't seen anything that probably makes you think you want to do this. All right, but when we come up here, we can now say sum equal calculate sum, and we'll pass in here num1 and num2. Okay, diff is going to be equal to calculate diff, and again we'll pass in num1 and num2. We need a semicolon at the end there. That's why we got that error. Prod equals calculate prod with num1 and num2. And finally, quote equals calculate quote with num1 and num2. All right. Now, let me do this. So this is what was in here. I'm going to take all that and comment it out and replace it with those calls. And of course, I need a semicolon at the end there. All right, let's see if it still works and it works correctly. So again, we can put in any numbers we want here. And it still looks like it's working just fine. All right, that's good. All right, now let's take this and I'm going to write another routine down here that says now don't worry, we might get a bunch of errors, but that's okay. We'll fix all of them in just a second. Okay, that'll fix all these. That's most of them. And we have to pass in the sum, the difference, the product, and the quotient. Okay, so that's all fixed. So we're rewriting that one. And let me take this and comment all of this out. All right. And we'll do a save all here, and let's make sure it still works. Okay, it's not, so we have to, the problem is we're not calling it now. Okay, so what we want to do is down here, we want to call display all outputs. And we want to pass in all that stuff. Now let's see if it works. And you can see it's all working. Okay, that's good. So I'm kind of reverse engineering this, building it backwards, for lack of better words. All right. Well, let's take a look at the other stuff we've got in here. We've got this exit routine. Let's get rid of all that. And instead, let's call exit program or not. Okay, and let's write that down below. So private void exit program or not, and we'll put in all of that code. Okay, now let's see if we can exit that way. Okay, that works. Let's grab our clear stuff that's in here. And we'll call clear inputs and outputs. All right, we'll write that right here. Okay, and I'm going to grab this that we had in there, and I'm going to put it back here, but I'm going to comment it out. So I'm going to grab these 4 lines, comment them out. I'm going to grab what we had here originally. We had it right here. And I'm going to comment that out. But before I do, I'm going to move this over. That's good. And now comment this out. Okay. All right, so we've rewritten a lot of this stuff already by just moving stuff around. All right. here's where we'll hopefully start to really save something. Notice this, the code that's in here, right there, and the code that's in here, right there. That's exactly the same code, except one time we're referring to the first text box, and one time we're referring to the second text box. So let's see if we can write these one time. So this first thing that's in here, I'm going to grab all of this, copy it, and then I'm going to comment it out. All right. And instead now I'm going to call check for no input in text box. Okay. And we'll pass in here a 1. Don't worry, we're going to go over what all of it means in just a second. So this is called check for no input in text box. So I'm going to move that so that it's down here. And that will return, for now we'll keep it a void. Check for no input in text box. And we'll put in here int num. Okay. All right. I want to show you something in here, but it's way too advanced a topic right now, so I'm not going to do that. So let's see. Trying to think of a good way to write this. I'm not coming up with it. Let's see. Okay, we'll make that a bool. Okay, let's fix that. Maybe I can't introduce this right now. Don't want to confuse you, but there's a thing that we can put in here that's called a tag. Okay, and I'm going to use it. And I'm going to call this text box 1. And I'm going to call this one text box 2. All right. And I put it in the wrong thing. I don't want it under text. I want it under tag. So that one should be also moved. Now a tag is just that. It's a way that I can say, hey, this is being referred to as text box 1. This is being referred to as text box 2. All right. Why do we care? Well, I'm going to look up here and I'm going to come in here again and put in C# tag attribute example. How's that? Well, that wasn't a good example, so we'll find one. What is the tag attribute in C#? Just got to remember how to pass it in. That's what I'm looking for right now. Actually in our book too. So let me do this. We're on 174. Smart tag. The tag property of a dialog. See if that'll have it. All right. Okay, how to use the tag property. You can see it's a pretty advanced topic, but I think it'd help a lot with what we're trying to do in here. Yeah, this is from chapter 10, so. One way to do that. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, I'm trying not to waste time, and I'm wasting time here. We're already at 48 minutes. Good golly, Miss Molly. Tell you what, I want to finish this, and then we'll stop. Okay, let me just jump back. I think we were on 171. Is that what I said? I think it was 174. All right. With an optional parameter, what that means is it's something you can optionally pass in. So you'll notice on here, I'm putting in here two things, the months and the monthly interest rate, and they both have a value after them. What that means is when I call this, I can call this and I can pass in three things, a monthly investment, a monthly interest rate, and a month's, or I can pass in two things, a monthly investment and a monthly interest rate, and then it'll default months to 12. Or I can pass in one thing, a monthly investment, and it'll default the interest rate to 5% and the months to 12. So as it says, the parameter list can include one or more optional parameters. All right? And any ones that are optional have to be put on the end. All right? Because they are optional. All right. Now, some of the stuff that's in here is going to get pretty heavy. We looked at this a little bit earlier with the switch statement. All right. And this is going to work with something that's called a tuple. I am not going to go over this right now. We'll have to do it in class for it to make any sense. So I'm just going to skip this section right now. All right. Refactoring is something that you can do. So what you can do is you can take a big program and tell the system to make it into a bunch of smaller subprograms. That's probably what I should have done instead of what I did do. All right. I should have probably grabbed all of that and tried doing the refactoring. Okay. Now, passing arguments by reference and passing arguments by value. You see where we are here. Okay, 201. the building that I work out of in Wentzville, the address to that building is 751 Parr Road in Wentzville. Even if Rankin moved out of that building tomorrow, they're not going to, but even if they did, and somebody else moved in, the address would still be 751 Parr Road. The reason I'm telling you that is if you pass an argument by reference, you're passing the address of the variable and not the value of the variable. So any changes you make are permanent changes. When you pass by value, you pass a copy. So any changes you make, you're making to the copy. Again, we will go over all of this in class. Okay? All right. Notice there's an out keyword here. What this out keyword right here means is that, well, it says, when you use the out keyword, you don't have to initialize the variable. That's a little bit confusing. You'll have to see it in class. If you don't want to use the value of an out variable, you can pass what's called a discard. Again, all stuff that'll have to be shown in class. Same thing with tuples. This is not going to make any sense. I don't even know why they added that feature. I don't particularly like it. All right. Finally, the last thing that's in here is how to work with events and delegates. And they get into event wiring. And what it is when you wire up an event, if you don't wire it up yourself, it gets wired up for you. What does that mean? That means that when you write code, there'll be a lot of things that are going to end up being done in the background for you. But you can take control and write some of those yourself as well. That's what they explain in here. And again, I think it'll make much more sense if we go over that as a class. All right, same thing with this other version here of the Future Value app. It's going to look very similar to what we've already done. All right, the difference will be we're going to be the way that we write this. Okay, all right, so the next thing we'll do in just a few minutes is handle exceptions and validate data. Before we do that, I'm going to stop right here and I'm going to go back and try to just finish up that calculator. But so we must be at an hour already. We're almost there. Let's see if we can get this done in around an hour. So let's see. Go back to here. All right, and I'll tell you what I'm going to do for right now. Just because I don't want to waste your time. We will try to do this in class. But I'm going to come back to here. And all that code that was in here that was handling number 1 and number 2, there is a way to do it. There is a way to do it with writing out separate routines or one routine to handle everything. But I'm going to remove that for now. All right? Right there. And you can see this, the changes that I've made and what I've added. But I'm going to leave this stuff uncommented here. But I will have to comment out that line of code. All right, and get rid of this. Okay, so this works right now, I believe. Okay, this output string that's in here, where was that? That's in here. So all this stuff in here with output string, I don't need that anymore. And I believe that this program will work just fine as it is. So you've seen me start to take a program and break it down. Okay, still working. So I've taken it down and broken it down into pieces, so to speak. So you've seen that happen. Okay, so I will come back and we'll maybe come back and look at this one in class. Okay, all right. So file, save all. The only other thing I wanted to do was I was having problems before with this last console app. So I thought of something while I was working on this, and that is I'm just going to remove the console.read line that's in here. Where is it? So I'll hit any key to continue, and let's see if that fixes it. I don't know if it will or not. So I'm going to do a file, save all. I want to tell it to run this program. So I'm going to set this as my startup object. If it doesn't do anything at all, if it still breaks, we'll go on. All right, so in run program again. If I say yes, good. That's exactly what I wanted to have happen. Okay, I'll see you in a couple minutes.